You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Kurlop and Ziana McIntyre.
What's going on, everyone? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Kurlop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Ziana McIntyre, aka Z Money. Z, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, nice to have you back in action. 95% plus.
It feels so good to be at 95% plus. I feel like I'm gonna be always like a probable on the injury report, where it's like I always am probably going to be there, but there's that one little chance that something weird happens.
Okay.
That's a football reference, which I don't know if you're into football that much, so maybe we're not going to get very far.
So not. Okay.
Yeah. But where you are in is your new office, which I'm loving that background. See.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear about your house. Will you tell us a little bit about it? Because I think, are you guys closing now? What's happening?
Yeah. So big news.
Not house hack, right?
It's kind of a house hack, actually. So
okay, great.
We moved to just outside of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And we have a nice house, right? So I've been house hacking now for a while. We've got a handful of rental properties, and this is kind of meant to be our forever home, right? Like, it's a nice place, got a nice view. It's on some acreage, and there is a day downstairs with a separate entrance. We can't get away from house hacking yet. We are going to probably rent out the downstairs to somebody that, we end up knowing and liking and trusting, and they're going to help us offset the mortgage. We are not going to cover it with that. It wasn't purely a financial purchase, right? It was kind of like a lifestyle purchase, but so I'm throwing in the house hacking towel at this point. I can actually no longer do house hacks anymore, just with my lending criteria and all that. So it's, I guess that we're moving. What is it called? Transitioning, leveling up. So it's exciting. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize, but that totally makes sense that you get to a place where you can't do any more house hacks. So, wow. Yeah. You've graduated again.
I've graduated. Yep. And it was a great journey, and seriously, house hacking obviously changed my life. So I still think it's for everybody. And until you get your 3, 4, 5 of them, like keep pushing on.
Great.
Which is exactly what Nieves is doing.
Yes.
Good right. Transition. That's pretty good transition. I'll take that one. So Nieves is a great guest. What'd you think about her?
I love her. I know her from FinCon. We talk about it a little bit in the show. If you guys don't know about FinCon, it is a financial independence, personal finance conference that we were both at this last year. And she became a friend of mine because she lives in St. Louis, where I own some properties, and we hung stuff. We built furniture. It was bonding.
Yeah,
great.
Seriously. Yeah, that's a great way to get to know somebody, is build furniture with them.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's get to know Nieves a little more and bring her on the show. Hey, everyone. Big news. Investify has now partnered with Rent Ready. And yes, we've partnered with Rent Ready because that is the software system that both me and Ziana use to do property management for our rental properties. It makes things super easy. We can send applications, get background checks and credit checks. Tenants, when they come in, can pay rent automatically through there. They can submit maintenance requests, do everything you need to do for property management all in one place. That's why Rent Ready is the thing that we've done. I've been using them for years now. And that's why we reached out to them for a relationship on the show. And so again, super excited to have them on board. If you go to rentready.com and use the code Investify, you'll get 50% off your first 6 months. That's right. 50% off your first 6 months. If you go to rentready.com, sign up and use the coupon code INVEST2FI. And can't wait to see you there. Let us know, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on wherever, and let us know what you think of Rent Ready. Because again, I think it's an amazing software. I use it all the time. You can access it from your phone. Amazing stuff. So thanks so much. And let's get back to the episode. Nieves, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
So good. So good to have you on. So good to be back in action. And my voice, I think, is 100%. So let's hear about 95. Yeah, it will now forever be 95%. Okay. Well, let's hear a little bit about your story, though. Where did you first hear about financial independence? When did this whole kind of thing enter your brain?
Yeah, so I would say my story starts right when I graduated from college. So I was a pretty good student. I went to the University of Florida, graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, and I moved to St. Louis, Missouri, right out of college to start a career in Procter and Gamble. And I thought, okay, yeah, next CEO, I'm going to work super hard to climb the corporate ladder. And within the first 2 years there, I realized that that was not something I wanted to do. So I was working 12 plus hours a day. I was miserable. I was not in a great work environment. And after 2 years of being there, I decided to switch jobs. But this happened actually in March of 2020. And as you guys know, that's when the pandemic happened. So my first job was the first week of lockdown.
That is so crazy. I think it's so funny when I hear people's stories about, it's funny. It's like college primes you to just be an employee, right? And I'm not knocking college. I think college has a lot of benefits, but I know that was the same way where I wanted to grow, I wanted to want to do the CEO of some big company. But what does that get you? It's so good that you can see that clarity. And so 2 years at Procter & Gamble, totally stunk. You moved over. What was this other job? What did that look like?
Yeah. So the job that I'm currently in, I now work for an engineering consulting firm. So I have a lot more balance. So something that I enjoy doing a lot more. And I also get to travel for work a lot. So it's something that I enjoy because that allows me to sometimes go to cool places. Like I just went to Hawaii last year for work. And that was awesome because I got to stay a week there for vacation, enjoying Hawaii. So it's definitely something, I don't think it's where I want to be the rest of my life. That's why I'm pursuing financial independence, but it's a lot more balanced than what I used to have in my previous job.
Yeah, you could have gone and hang out with Ziana in Hawaii. She's there, she basically lives there.
She messaged me and I was like, I think I left that week or something. It was, we just two passing ships in the night.
Done.
Yeah.
Next time. Yeah. And so, okay. So you got this, so you were looking forward, you got this job on March 30th, you go in and tell us a little bit about kind of starting this job, which is an awesome job, but during the height of, and all the pandemonium of the pandemic.
Yeah. So I started and I was like, wow, did I just made a terrible mistake and now I'm going to be out of a job. So it was really scary because I didn't know what was going to happen. Thankfully, it all worked out and I was actually employed during the whole time of 2020. But that actually was what kind of gave me the push to start learning about personal finance. And so because of the not knowing what was going to happen, I just Googled best personal finance podcast. And I started listening.
Investify shows up.
Yeah. Who is that?
So I just found a couple and I just started listening and just learning about, how to invest in your 401k, how to invest in real estate. And that's how I found out about Bigger Pockets, house hacking. And so I basically spent all of 2020 kind of really learning how to organize my personal finances and then learning how to properly invest my money, right? Both through the brokerage accounts, 401k and all of that, and also real estate. And so at the end of 2020, I actually took a class to learn about real estate investing. And my goal for 2021 was to buy my first house hack.
Cool. So I just am curious, what took you from just doing the investing in index funds where a lot of people stop as personal finance or financial independence, on that quest. What made you go, okay, I want to go to this next step and do real estate too?
And I think for me, it was the fact that I think what's great about real estate is that you don't have to save up. Like even if you want to become financial independent through investing in index funds, it's totally doable, but you're going to have to contribute a lot of money for at least like 5-10 years. You have to be aggressively investing to be able to reach, your financial independence number. And it depends, right? Each person has different goals. But for me, I definitely don't want to be like lean fire where I'm just like retire with just $600,000, in my investment account. And so I saw real estate as a way to start building wealth, but it allows you to obviously use leverage. And so I think that's what's great about real estate. And that's why I wanted to get started.
Yes, Queen. I'm into it.
I'm second everything you just said. Everyone should just go rewind what you just said, because you will become financially independent with index funds. But like you said, that's a 15-year plan, right? Mm-hmm. You can get on the 3 to 5 year plan just through real estate investing, and then it just explodes your wealth too. It's not just, you're not relying on the stock market, which at this time, the stock market has been tanking. And so everyone in index funds is kind of getting scared, right? Anyone that just retired in the last 2 months is probably puckering their, what? So Z.
What I also wanted to say, let me save you from yourself, is that when you're going on the index fund path, because every dollar counts, I feel like you get stuck into this space of like, okay, I'm never going to order a coffee again, or I'm going to like pinch every single penny and, get all the coins under the couch. I think when you're in real estate, you just loosen that up a little bit. So it's also kind of like a lifestyle thing. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, for sure. I think saving money can take a really big toll on your brain. I think the whole reason why a lot of people do this is to have stress-free, right? And not worry about money. And once you can not worry about money, you can worry about things that like truly, truly matter. And that's relationships and your health and family and all that good stuff. And so, but yeah, money always seems to be like the number one thing first, even though it probably shouldn't be. But
all right. Well, back to you. So tell us, because I know like way more about you than Craig does. So I'm going to try to keep it under wraps. I'm excited, but tell us about your find and how the search went to get that first property.
Yeah. So by the end of 2020, I basically had saved up about $20,000, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I had graduated from the class that I took, and I was like feeling confident about analyzing deals, understanding how to analyze a deal. So I just found a real estate agent, and then we started looking at properties, and it took me actually a lot less than I thought it was going to take. Like, I think I started looking for a property in January of 2021, and I was able to close on my property in April of 2021. And the market, it was a crazy market in 2021 as well.
And so how did you go about saving up $20,000? Were you making good money at your job?
Yeah. So I think that was something that I was very fortunate about, that with an engineering degree, I basically started my career making like more than $70,000, and, my income grew over the years. And so I think what really helped was definitely just understanding, like being more organized with my finances, like understanding where my money was going, because I would say the first 2 years, I wasn't really saving much, even though I was making about the same money. So I was able to go from not saving much to saving about $1,000 a month. Wow. And then that's how I was able to do that. And I was fortunate also that I got a lot of scholarships through college. And so I graduated only with, I think, like $12,000 in debt. Wow. So that also helped a lot, that I didn't have kind of like a lot of debt to pay off. And I never got into consumer debt. So even though I wasn't necessarily like organized and like really educated about personal finance, the first 2 years out of college, I was still responsible with my money.
So did you pay down your $12,000 of debt first, and then you started to save for the house hack, or did you just pay your minimum payments? And
so look at that face. She still has that debt, don't you?
No, so I actually finished paying it off end of 2022. But
2022, that's the future.
Sorry, 2021. So I finished paying it off like the end of last year.
Okay.
But it also helped because after my house hack, I was basically living for free. So I definitely focused on saving cash for my property versus paying down my student debt.
And so why did you do that? Like, let's dig into that a little bit.
I just think, especially because the pause of interest on the student loans, like it didn't make any sense for me to pay off more or pay it off completely with the money that I was saving up for my house, just because I knew after I bought my first house hack that I knew that my living expenses were basically going to go to zero. So then I could, if I wanted to, I could just allocate that money towards the debt.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I just want to like jump through the screen and give you a hug right now. Cause like, I just so am with that strategy of keeping your like low interest debt and just hold on to it and make those minimum payments. And because nothing should stop you from house hacking. That is going to be your highest return on investment every single time. And nothing should stop you from that. I did the same exact thing. I had $90,000 of student loan debt and people were like, oh, you should pay that off first. Dude, I'd still be paying those off right now if I went that route. But I think you did a very wise thing.
Well, I was just curious about what your living expenses were and then how they went to zero. But I think you had one more thing to say, Nieves.
What I was going to say is that I knew the best like return on my money was going to come from the house hack, and I could have just not pay towards my student loan like at all in the last 2 years. But I think in the back of my mind, I still just wanted to like kind of like get the checklist, like, okay, yeah, that's paid off. So I just continued to make like kind of like the same payments that I was making before until like I knew, like I already knew I was going to pay it off within the year. So I was just like, let me just continue to do this. But I know if I wanted to, I could have just like not paid all the money off and then, restart whenever the interest came back on, because it was, I think, less than 4%. And so it was kind of like a balance for me. It's like I wanted to prioritize both, obviously more the house hack, but I was still able to keep contributing and get to the goal of just being like completely debt free and still get another property.
Love that.
Nice.
So it did not stop you. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the house hack. It sounds like you got a good job. You saved some money, you got your 20,000. It is now early 2021. You said you found a real estate agent. How did you go about finding a real estate agent, an investor-friendly real estate agent?
Yeah, so I actually found it through Bigger Pockets, and I basically just went and interviewed a couple, and this one was the one that I felt like was the best match. And so, met up, had coffee, just like make sure that they understood kind of like what my goals were. And then we started looking at properties. And at the beginning, I was basically getting none of my offers accepted because everybody was offering like $10,000 and $20,000 that we're asking. And, but I was basically checking the MLS every single day. And I also had notifications set up on Zillow. So every time a property that I liked change status, it will notify me. And actually, it's funny how the property that I ended up buying actually showed up on the market, and I told my agent, okay, I want to go see it, and they were going to have an open house. But before the open house, it actually went under contract. Somebody went ahead and made an offer, sight unseen. I don't know what that offer was, but they basically took it off the market. And I was so sad because I was like, oh, this could have been a good property. And a few weeks later, I see that it came back on the market. And so I think because of that happening, there wasn't a lot of competition. So we came to the open house and I saw it. I really liked the fact that even though it's a duplex, it's kind of a single family home in the front and then just like a 1-bedroom apartment in the back. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is great. It's just what I'm looking for. I like the location. The price was within my budget. And so I thought it was a great property.
Awesome. And so where are you located? Just so we have an idea.
St. Louis.
Okay. So this is all in St. Louis.
Yes.
And then I'm kind of just curious, when you went about building your team, right? You mentioned the agent. It sounds like you found a good one. You said you interviewed a couple people. What about your agent stood out to you? Why did you pick this one versus the other ones that you interviewed? And what questions did you ask in order to make that decision?
That's a great question, Craig.
I'm full of great questions, or
You're
one of the 10
today.
Yeah.
I love it.
One thing, actually, I call, I think 3 real estate agents. And then the first one was just like, hey, just sign the exclusivity agreement and then we'll meet. I'm like, well, what if I don't think you're a good fit. So that was already off the bat, like, oh, definitely not a good experience, don't want to work with this person. And then when I called my real estate, the one that ended up being my real estate agent, he was able to meet with me. We actually went to see an off-market deal that he was interested in buying. And like, he kind of walked me through the property. And I think overall through the whole process, they were just really helpful and always willing to answer my questions. And so, especially since I was traveling for work at times, being able to work with me like weird hours when between my flight or when I got to my destination for work. And so I think it's just honestly being like available and being there to answer any questions. And even I think something that's been great that even after we closed on the deal, for anything that I need, like if I actually had a maintenance call like weeks after I bought my property, and I was just like, I don't know anybody. So I just asked her for recommendations. So she's been great at providing other connections.
Yeah, sometimes it's funny, but I think this is true about contractors and agents. It's like literally if you just answer the phone, if you are like responsive, respond to texts, like you're just available, you're already going to be like 10% better than anybody else. So sometimes it's just that like put a little bit of effort into it. So anybody who's trying to be an agent out there, just a little tip.
Yeah. And just provide tremendous amounts of value. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, especially if you do it all yourself, right? If you find an investor friendly agent who also invests, they have leases, they have calculators, like all they have to do is send you a file most of the time. Like, hello. Totally. So, yeah. So that's great. All right. So we're in St. Louis. You got a duplex. It's kind of like a duplex. It's a single family, maybe with like an additional dwelling unit in the back, but you got a big house in the front, a little house in the back. Should we get in? Should we do it, Z? The for real deal.
Yeah. So tell us the numbers. Let's break it down.
Yeah. So I still had to offer above, whatever was listed. So I actually bought the property for $210,000. Which is not, compared to other markets, it's not a lot, but there was a long-term tenant in the front unit, and she actually has a lease until November of this year. So it's great because I was able to move in and not have to worry about finding tenants or dealing with a vacancy. And so the back unit was actually also occupied. And so that was something that we had to work with the seller. But it was great that the tenant in the back was willing to move out so that I could move in within 60 days of me closing the property.
So it's interesting because if there was a lease on that front house, I wonder if that actually kind of kept some of the buyers away, because I imagine most people that were looking at that house wanted to live in the front, in the big house, and then they would rent out the back. But you were being, just kind of different and saying like, actually, I want to live in the tiny house. And so that probably worked towards your advantage to get that house. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And so they have a lease until November 2022, right? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have over a year's worth of basically almost guaranteed income. Now, did you do any sort of vetting for these tenants, like in your diligence, or did you meet them or anything like that? Or were you kind of just like, let's just close our eyes and swing?
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
I did meet them when I came to the open house. They were actually inside, and, they seemed like, okay, I honestly, there wasn't a lot of due diligence that I did. It was kind of like, I hope it works out. But the sellers, they were actually from Florida. So they were out of town investors. And they showed me all the records, like every time they paid rent, like any issues that they had in the past. And I could see that they've paid rent on time every single month. And so I think that was one of the indications that I don't think I'm going to have any issues, but you never know. So it was definitely like a risk that I took, knowing that they were going to have a lease until November of this year.
All right. So tell us a little bit about like your mortgage and then how much they pay in the front, because I imagine when you go to get new tenants, you might furnish it and rent it out, or you might just try to get higher than market rate or something like that. But these were just people you inherited. So you have to make sure those numbers still work for you.
Yeah. And so I ran the numbers with like the rents that they were currently collecting, or the previous owners were currently collecting. So bought the property for 210,000, and then the front unit rents for 1,300, and then the back unit was renting for 800. And so based on my analysis, I saw, okay, this could work out, even with a 10% property management fee and all of that, it was still, I think, cash flowing like about $200 a month. And my mortgage currently is 1403. That's with taxes and insurance. And one thing that I learned that I didn't know when I was doing the analysis is that because it's two separate dwellings, I actually had to get two policies, one for the front house and one for the unit that I live in. So that kind of bumped up my insurance cost, which I didn't anticipate. So I basically pay $105 to live in my property now.
Wow.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
So, I think you're fine.
Yeah. So you have an entire place to yourself.
Correct.
Right. And you're only paying $105 a month.
Yeah.
And that same place would rent out for $800 conservatively, because that was the last year's rents.
Correct.
Right? And rents have been going up. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a huge win. Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And so you've been in this property now so you bought this in April of 2021. Is that right?
Correct.
And so we're recording this here in January 2022. So we're approaching a year. How has things gone? Like, have there been any problems, any issues, anything break, any unexpected things happen?
Yeah. So I had actually a maintenance call for the tenant that was living in the unit that I live in now. Like a week after I bought the property, I was out of town, and luckily my agent was able to connect me with a plumber, and then he was able to get in, fix the issue, and then I also had a small maintenance call on my front unit, but it was just for like a clog, something that was clogged. So I just called a plumber again. So both of them were actually really cheap. But something that did happen is my unit, actually my heater completely like went out within, I think, my first month of living in the unit. So it definitely was great that I had extra savings to be able to cover that, because even though it was my unit, if that would have happened to my tenant, I would have had to been prepared to fix that. And it was, I think, $1,500 to get a new water heater.
Are you looking to get a house hack this year? If so, you need to join this free webinar that me, Craig Kurlop, the FI guy, is throwing this Thursday, February 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's going to talk about how to land your next house hack in the next 90 days. Seriously, go in, sign up. You can sign up at thefiteam.com/90 days. That's thefiteam.com/90 days. I can't wait to see you there.
Why is it that every single time you buy a house, the furnace or water heater goes? Like, they're supposed to last 20 years, but for some reason, every time, I swear to God, it happens every time. I think I've had to replace 2 or 3 furnaces. I'm like, what the heck? So I feel your pain. Yeah,
That's funny.
Maybe it's just our bad luck, and
I think it's just you.
probably me. Yeah, maybe it's me. Yeah, taking long showers or something. But Nieves, how much did you put down on this property?
So I ended up putting about $10,000 because I put 5% down. So I used an FHA loan. And so, yeah, it was about $10,000. And I was able to get some credits from my lender during closing, and also some credits from the seller as well.
Okay, great. And how were you able to negotiate those credits with the lender and the seller?
With the lender, so I actually used I was just saying, hey, somebody else is offering like this much in interest rate. Like, could you match that? And he was like, yeah, we can do that. And then he also gave me like $2,000 in credits for closing. And then for the seller, during the inspection, we noticed that there are a few things that needed to be fixed. And so we just asked for, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 in credits as well.
I wanted to ask also if you did any repairs. Like, did you fix up the unit that you're in at all? I think you said you painted, but I don't know if you did that much.
Yeah, no. So they were both pretty turnkey. They're actually very well renovated. So for my unit, I did like paint. I installed shoe board. So So just little things like that, but there wasn't any major renovation.
Okay. Great.
Nieves, I feel like you did this whole thing so right. Like thinking about like your student loan debt and then, buying a house that's pretty turnkey. So you can just have it rented and filled and cash flowing you basically from day one. And that way you can keep saving for the next one. I just feel like this whole thing is great. And not only that, but obviously a really big tidbit that I think you just gave away that I think can save these listeners thousands of dollars just by listening to this episode is, like talk to a few different lenders and try to see if they can match the rates and try to negotiate those credits and buy that inspection report and make sure that you go and ask the seller for things because you never know what they'll be willing to give in order to make the deal go through, especially if you're the only offer, right? So even though like you're in a cheap market, if you're listening to this, you're not in a cheap market, right? Like these are still things you can pick up from an episode just like this. So Nieves, great stuff, dropping bombs. I love it.
So I'm also curious, like, what do you think the rent is going to go for now when these people move out, or what are your plans for the next renters?
Since it's still, I think like a little bit away for the front unit, I'm just going to wait maybe, 3 months before they move out or like their lease is up to just ask if they want to renew the lease or if they're actually going to move out. And if so, my plan is to look around kind of like what other houses are renting for. And I've actually feel like rents have definitely gone up. So I think now I can actually rent the front house for $1,400 instead of the $1,300. And I think if they want to renew, just doing like a 3% increase year over year to just make sure that I'm keeping up with market. But hopefully they've been great tenants so far. So I hope they stay for a long time. And yeah, for the back unit, so my plan is to actually move out once the year's up. And since I have all my furniture here, I'm planning on doing traveling nurses. And so put it on furnish.com and see how much I can get for that. I think I could get like between $1,450 and $1,500 based on your property, Sienna.
Yeah. So let's just say that you met me and I changed your life. Like, let's not skip over that.
Yeah.
So actually, I do want to ask you about that because we met at FinCon, right? So I'm wondering what took you to FinCon? Was it just like your interest in personal finance at the time, or was it because you were doing your online business, which we haven't mentioned?
It was mainly like two things. One, my parents live in Austin. And so I was like, it makes like, why wouldn't I go? I get to see my family, like have a place to stay. And I was actually able to do like the community pass for FinCon. So it was like super cheap to attend the event. And nice. So I think it was just more for my passion, like for the fire community, just because I listened to like all the podcasts, like follow all those people on Instagram. And it was just great to meet a lot of the people that I follow on social media in person. And it was great to make like so many connections. And so, yeah, that's why I went to FinCon.
Yeah, I'm curious, Nieves, because it sounds like you're kind of changing tribes, right? Like you kind of found your financial independence tribe and it sounds like you like them a lot. Like, what do the older people in your life have to say? Or like, have you run into any sort of obstacles with, maybe your parents don't understand what you're doing or some of your high school friends and all that? Like, curious how you handled that.
Oh, yeah. So my parents, like, I'm actually, I was born in Venezuela and, I moved here when I was in high school. So my parents, they moved to the States when they were already in their 40s. And so, my siblings and I are kind of like their retirement plan. And so I think for them, they just also think about like the American dream. So I feel like they want me to have like my dream home already, especially because some of my friends are buying like the $400,000, $500,000 house with like the beautiful kitchen and the driveway. And I'm over here like, oh no, I'm going to move into a duplex so that I can live rent free. And I'm planning to do the same thing next year. So I think they're excited for me. Like, I don't think they fully understand like what I'm doing. But they support me. But I think like they also kind of wish like I was following more of a traditional path and like going with like, okay, climbing the ladder and getting the new car and getting the big house. So I just think it's just different perspective.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because I think people are scared of like the unknown and the different, right? Like they know if you stay at Procter and Gamble and you do your engineering job and you climb that corporate ladder, you're going to get a $10,000 pay bump every year. You'll be right. Like your life is just so predictable. And that's comforting to people who value your safety and they want you to, they want that. But like when you go to this different path, which is unknown, it makes people uneasy. And I think it's fun because clearly you've got a great head on your shoulders and you're going to crush it and you already are crushing it. But I think it's always fun kind of dealing with that dynamic of like disagreeing with your parents or maybe going against what all your friends have been saying and all that. So love that. Love it.
So I want to take us back to FinCon, and it's just because Nieves did something that I think is a really good example for people that want to work with a mentor. So we met, Craig was there too, but I don't think Craig remembers. We met at like a little mixer thing. I don't even remember. I think it was real estate investors meetup kind of thing that was happening during the conference. It was at that barbecue joint, Craig. Yeah. So anyway, when we met, she had talked to Sarah, who is somebody that I'm writing a book with. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But she had talked to Sarah, and Sarah had heard that Nieves lived in St. Louis. And so she came and talked to me, and Nieves already knew who I was because and she offered like, hey, Sarah and I were about to go to St. Louis right after that trip. And we were going to work on refurnishing 2 of my Airbnbs and like really updating them. And she's like, hey, if you guys need any help, like moving furniture or something, just call. And I thought like, there's no way we're calling. Like, we're going to be okay. Like, I don't want to put her out. Literally like day 4, we're just like dying. And I was like, do you have that girl's number? Like, what's up? Get her over here. She showed up with a drill and her little tool kit. Yeah. It was freaking amazing. She saved our lives. So
look at that.
It was great. Yeah. And now we're great friends. But I think like that is exactly what you need to do is like, if you want to work with a mentor, like see how you can help them without making it just taxing on them. So I think that was such a good move.
Yeah. And it's just like you're being a friend. Like, I mean, like Nieves, you just treated Zion as a friend, which is how anyone wants to be treated always. And then, maybe you asked her a few questions while you were putting together IKEA furniture and right. And like got some enlightenment there. So yeah, just love that story. Love that story.
Yeah. She totally did. She was grilling Sarah. She's like, I'm going to get every dollar worth in here. It's like getting the full consulting experience. It's great.
It was great.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, because of that, that's the reason why I'm now that's why now I want to rent out my place to traveling nurses because, before that I had never met anybody, especially it's great that you're doing it in St. Louis because, like I think our properties are only like 5 minutes away. So
she's in our neighborhood.
Yeah. So it's great.
Amazing.
Yeah. So she was able to walk in, see what the quality of the furniture was, see like how big the space is or how updated it is and be like, okay, my place is better than this or equivalent to this. And like, what are you renting for? And so she got really excited about it because I think I had that place rented for like $1,900. So
wow.
Yeah.
And so
that's great.
Nieves, what do you think you're going to get for your place now? Like when you moved out and there's a traveling nurse in there?
My target is going to be, I think like $1,500 just because it's a 1-bedroom, but it's completely independent. It has its own basement. There's a garage. It's very spacious. And so,
that's going to be the main house or that's the one
that's
bedroom?
My unit, like the 1-bedroom. So the main house is actually a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
It only gets 1,300.
Yeah.
Would you do both on travel nurses?
Maybe.
It probably wouldn't work as well. So just to jump in here a little bit, traveling nurses generally travel with like 1 or 2 people. And so 1 to 2 bedrooms work really well. Sometimes it's like a little family, but 3 bedrooms, it could work, but it might not. So rare. I don't know if she wants to go through all the effort of like furnishing it.
I see.
Yeah.
And Z knows all about this because she's writing a book on medium-term rentals. Oh,
we are. So Sarah Weaver, who was on the show a while back, I don't know which number, but we'll put it in the show notes. She was the one who was there in St. Louis with me that Nieves met. And yeah, we're going to write a book together about medium-term rentals. So that should be coming out through Bigger Pockets next year. We will keep you guys in the loop.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So that'll have all the tips and tricks. So you
All right,
can do it
Nieves.
too.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Definitely. We'll be promoting that book a lot, I'm sure, once it's on its way out. Nieves. Okay. So you're here. We're here, right? Like, so basically your story is you had a job you hated, you got out of it to a job that you liked, and then COVID happened and you were like, well, maybe this whole job thing isn't as secure as we think it is, even though you were fortunate and you kept your job. Been saving, bought your duplex in 2021. Lived in the smaller unit, rented out the larger unit to already tenants, and those tenants were good for you. Now you're getting ready. You're preparing now to move in to find and move into the next one. So like, where do you see your journey going from here? What's the next 2 to 3 years look like for you?
Yeah, so definitely something that I know Ziana kind of mentioned before, but I think through this whole journey, another thing that I've realized is that there are so many ways to make money, right? And I think a lot of people think, okay, I'm just going to go to college, get a degree, go get a job, and like it's almost like you have a label and that's what you do. And so I actually found an opportunity through a podcast about a licensing program, and it's to teach kids Spanish or a second language. So Spanish is my first language. So I actually started a business also in 2020 to teach kids Spanish. And so the goal is to keep growing that, to be able to be kind of like the go-to language program in all of St. Louis, like preschools. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of hard work, but the idea is to have a group of teachers that then will go into the classroom, and we will provide basically a Spanish program or French program to students. And it's great that, I have this mentor. It's actually a known program in New York City. And so now I'm bringing it to St. Louis. So it was great that I didn't have to come up with the whole idea. So it allowed me to kind of start, selling it and enrolling students right away.
Do I count as a kid?
You can.
Yeah. You need to work on your Spanish.
Sí, mucho.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So would you say that teaching Spanish and foreign languages to young people, like really young people, you think that's a passion of yours?
Definitely. I think, especially because I moved to St. Louis from Miami, and in Miami, everybody speaks Spanish. Mm-hmm. And St. Louis is like, you can't even find a lot of like Hispanic food. Yeah. And so, but I think a lot of people are interested in having their kid like be fluent in not just English, but also a second language. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity in St. Louis, because there isn't, a lot of competition, and this is a really great program. So it's not something that I just came up with, yesterday. It's something that has been in development for 15 years, and it's been a proven concept. So I definitely want to keep growing that.
Yeah. Well, and so this is like such a great thing about real estate too, where like real estate can be your side hustle that keeps your expenses low. And as you accumulate properties, it allows you to cover your baseline expenses, and you can put most of your energy, if this is where you want to go, into growing this, foreign language business, which if that's your true passion, like grow that, you're probably going to have a tremendous impact. And when you have a tremendous impact, you'll probably make a good amount of money, and you'll have that same exact freedom that the big real estate investor will have, but just through a different way. But still, real estate investing allows you to get there, and financial independence allows you to get there. And that's why I love financial independence, and that's why we put on the show.
I was literally going to say that. That was like going to be my question. And I'm like, wow, okay. I guess we're just on the same wavelength today.
We've been doing this a while now, Z.
That's right. All right. So should we move into the final part of the show?
Yes. Nieves, if you do not have any more words, do you have any more words of wisdom for us before we move into the final four?
No, I'm just excited to keep growing my business, keep buying real estate, and just keep learning.
All right. Well, then let's get into it.
The final four.
So question number 1, what are you reading right now?
So I'm currently finishing up the BRRRR book by David Green. So looking for my next property to be a BRRRR, either whether I actually move into it at the end or not, but definitely want to create some equity through a rehab.
Okay, cool.
Love that. Great book.
I feel like that could happen in St. Louis. Like BRRRRs are not easy in all markets, but in the affordable ones, you generally have a little better chance.
Nieves, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think something that actually somebody brought at FinCon was when I was saying, "Oh, I'm just waiting on this to then get started on my next step," and he was like, "Well, what's preventing you from doing it now?" And I think I don't know. Sometimes we have just like mental barriers that prevent you from taking that next step. But, it's kind of like the analysis paralysis, but I think it's just take action and just do it now. Like things still take time. And so I think if you just take that next step, you're going to get to where you want to be much faster.
Love it. Yeah. I love that. Don't wait for anything. Like just try to just make some progress.
I like it because I've kind of heard this analogy before where there's like this balance between learning and collecting information and then also taking action. And that it's like, if you get stuck and you're in this place, you kind of can ask yourself, okay, do I need to keep learning, or have I kind of overlearned where I'm in that analysis paralysis? Or do I need to take a little bit of action, even if it's just a baby step? And then at that point, it'll reveal to me, oh gosh, I really need to learn more about X. So I think it's really cool to have that as like a balance to check in with yourself. All right. Question number 3. What is your why?
I think just being able to afford the lifestyle that I want without having to be tied to, a 9-to-5 job. And I think also being able to support my family, my parents and my siblings.
Love that. Love it. Okay. In 40 years, what will people be nostalgic for?
I feel like with, technology as it advances, I think people are just going to be nostalgic about like just the way things used to be. Just like before when like video games, right? It's like, oh, back in the day, people used to play outside or whatever. Like, I feel like in 40 years as technology just like keeps progressing, I think we're just going to miss like the ways that people used to do things before.
Yeah. I remember like when we had to like shake hands and actually touch each other's hands and not in the metaverse. Or I feel like that's the next big thing. Love that. I think it'll be interesting. I'm sure we will all be around in 40 years, we'll have to come back and revisit this and see where we're at. All right, Nieves, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so they can find me on Instagram at Nieves Soto REI.
Awesome. Go check Nieves out on Instagram. Thank you so much, Nieves, for coming on. We so appreciate it. We'd love to hear your story, and we're gonna keep following along. And we're excited to hear about your second house hack coming up here soon. So stay tuned, follow her on Instagram. And again, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And that was Nieves Soto. Did I say your last name right? I don't know.
I think so, but I was not sure if you were going to attempt it or not.
Yeah, I think the emphasis might have been on the wrong syllable. But Z, what'd you think of Nieves?
I really like her story. I think it's so great that you can have a big house and a little house in St. Louis for $200,000. Gosh, I mean, in the market that I live in Boulder, it's like we've been looking for something with a basement apartment that's like a full apartment with a kitchen. And like, oh man, even at $1 million, it's just the shittiest places. Oh. And I'm just like, gosh, how nice it sounds to have something that cool for 200.
I know. And it was turnkey too, right? Lucky. $210,000 turnkey. Yeah. It almost makes you want to move to St. Louis. And then I think about it for about 10 more seconds. I'm like, nah.
St. Louis is cool, man. Okay. But yeah, I love her story. I think she's super like bright and scrappy. It's great that she's just sort of taken on wanting to learn financial independence all by herself. She didn't really talk about it, but I know that she came from really humble beginnings and has a lot of siblings, and they left a Latin country. And so her family doesn't really have that much. And she's really wanting to build all this so she can go back and support her parents and her other siblings and get them into a better financial situation. And I think that's just like really admirable. So it really it's nice. Yeah. It's nice when you can be the one hustler to change your whole family's future.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And she does have a great story, and she's out there hustling. And again, right, she's a single woman out there house hacking and going to conferences and meeting people and actually showing up when someone calls her name. And I think that's what you got to do at first. So love that. To all you guys listening, it would really help us tremendously if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes. And let us know when you do, right? Shoot us a message on Instagram. I'm at the Fi Guy on Instagram. Ziana is Ziana McIntyre on Instagram. And hit us up. Let us know how we did. So thanks so much, everyone. We will see you all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.